Hey guys, this is Roger Campbell here again with the presentation for the current health event this week, and I'm going to be talking about the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, I know this is a hot topic, especially today, and because the COVID-19 vaccines are becoming more readily available to the general public, and I know just a couple of months ago in December, we were in phase 1A in Illinois, and that was frontline healthcare workers, first responders, and people like that. Now we're transitioning to the later phases where a lot more people can be available to get the vaccine. Now, the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons I wanted to do a presentation on this, because I think there are a lot of misconceptions about what the COVID-19 vaccine is, the side effects of it, which causes a lot of hesitancy in people, especially minorities, to want to receive the vaccine. But now, since we see a lot more people receiving the vaccine, I think we're transitioning from that guinea pig phase of, oh, this is brand new, they took too long, or they took too short of a time to create this, I don't trust it. So talking about the trust factor, the actual facts, and I'm going to analyze the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine because those are the two prominent ones that we are seeing today. And I know Johnson and Johnson has one as well, but for the sake of time, I'm going to focus on the Pfizer and the Moderna and talk about the facts of it and why people, not saying that you should get it, but just to have, you know, clearer information, trustworthy information coming straight from the CDC up to date in 2021. So that's why I want to do this presentation. And then the next slide, I'm going to get into the outline of what I'll be discussing today. So for a brief outline of the topic that I'll be talking about today, COVID-19, I'll start off as to why. I feel like this is an important topic to talk about. And then I'll transition into some of the myths and the stories that I've heard um, from what the vaccine can cause. And these are personal stories as well because I received both doses of the Pfizer vaccine. And then I'll get into the facts of both the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna facts because those are the two, like I said, the two prominent ones that we see today. And then I'm going to analyze the clinical trials that these facts derived from the CDC. And then I'll talk about using these facts in a way where you can make a supported and educated decision for yourself and the others around you. And then I'll have the list of references that I use to create this presentation so that you guys know that this information isn't just coming from me or out of the blue, but from reputable sources that we see today. Now I'm going to get into why providing factual information of the COVID-19 vaccine is important. And to me, I think it's self-explanatory, but I'll get into why anyways. And the first reason I would say why this is important in the current health event is because of the increasing availability of the COVID-19 vaccines. A few months ago, there wasn't as many vaccines available to people. Therefore, people were more hesitant to receive it because it wasn't available. Now that it's becoming more available to people in the general public, people are beginning to familiarize themselves with the vaccination process and conduct their own research. But for those who do not want to conduct their own research, but listen to others and about their experiences, hopefully this can serve as a educational tool to help you make a decision not only for yourself but for your families and friends that are around you. And another reason this is important is because knowing the facts of a situation can help you make better decisions not only with the COVID-19 vaccine but in other decisions in your life as well. Now, there are a lot of myths and stories that I've personally heard about what the vaccine has the potential to do to people who receive the vaccine, and I'll stick to my experience. I received both doses of the vaccine, and I'm on the football team. So my teammates, after I got the first dose, they were under the impression that I would fall out and turn into a zombie. And after a couple of days went past and I didn't really have any symptoms from the first shot, they were looking at me as if I was an alien, as they were just kind of waiting for something bad to happen because they didn't know, the full facts around the vaccine and why I decided to make the decision to get vaccinated. And after 3 weeks, I got the second dose, and this was the one where, the pharmacists, they were saying like, okay, this is the dose where you can potentially receive the symptoms or get the symptoms, and it'll be flu-like symptoms. But I still didn't have any symptoms, and every day my teammates were, oh, did you fall out yet? Trying to be funny, but there's some truth behind those jokes because they really are weary about the potential side effects of the COVID-19 vaccine, especially with the Pfizer one. It's the one that I got. So I want to make this video to show and provide factual information so that people don't think you will turn into a zombie from getting the vaccine. And I'm not saying that there are no or there aren't any negative side effects that come with the vaccine. I'll get into that in the later slides. But overall, from a person who has received both doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccination, I can assure you that I did not turn into a zombie. Before I jump into how the Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines work, I think it's important to provide a brief overview of how vaccines work in general. So, to understand how COVID-19 vaccines work, it helps to first look at how our bodies fight illnesses. When germs such as the virus that causes COVID-19 invade our bodies, they attack and multiply. And this invasion, which is called infection, is what causes illness. And our immune system uses several tools to fight infection, such as white and red blood cells, and the white or the immune cells, which fight the infections. And different types of white blood cells are used to fight infection in different ways. So how the COVID-19 vaccine worked is it helps our bodies develop immunity to the virus that causes COVID-19 without us having to get the illness. Different types of vaccines work in different ways to offer protection, but with all vaccines, the body is left with a supply of memory, sort of speak, that stays with us to know how to fight the infection off. So there are different types of vaccines, but the Pfizer and the Moderna are both mRNA vaccines, which means that they contain material from the virus that causes COVID-19 and that gives our cells instructions for how to make a harmless protein that is unique to the virus. And after our cells make copies of these proteins, they destroy the genetic material from the vaccine. When this happens, our bodies then recognize that the protein should not be there, and they build things called T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes that will remember how to fight the virus that causes COVID-19 if we are infected in the future. And with the COVID-19 vaccines, most require more than one shot. All but one of the COVID-19 vaccines that are currently in phase 3 clinical trials in the United States uses 2 shots. The first shot starts to build the protection. That's kind of the shot that starts the process of your blood cells and the memory process to fight off the infection. And the second shot, a few weeks later, is needed to get the most protection that the vaccine has to offer. And there's only one vaccine in phase 3 clinical trials that only needs one shot. So it said, according to the CDC, the bottom line is that getting vaccinated is one of the many steps you can take to protect yourself and others from COVID-19. Protection from COVID-19 is critically important because for some people, it can cause severe illness or death. And stopping the pandemic requires using all the tools available, and vaccines work with your immune system so your body will be ready to fight the virus if you are exposed. And other steps like masks and social distancing help reduce your chance of being exposed to the virus or spreading it to others. According to the CDC, which updated this page on January 25th, 2021, some of the general information about the Pfizer and incorporated in BioNTech vaccine for COVID-19 are that there are two shots, and the second shot usually should come 21 days apart. That's what I was talking about in the previous slide about the first shot being more of the protection shot just to introduce it, and then the second shot is the maximum protection that you need. How it's given is a shot in the muscle of the upper arm, and I think an important thing to include also is what the vaccine does not contain. It does not contain eggs, preservatives, or latex, and that's extremely important for people who are allergic to those things, which will have severe side effects regardless of how the COVID-19 vaccine interacts with your bloodstream. Some of the most common side effects found within the clinical trials that were used are in the arm where you got the shot, there were pain, swelling, and redness. And throughout the rest of your body, chills, tiredness, and headaches were the most common side effects, with the second dose producing flu-like symptoms. And as a summary of the safety data, the clinical trials, the symptoms usually happen, or the side effects happen within 7 days of getting vaccinated, and they were common, but most were mostly mild to moderate. There were a few, like a small number of people who had severe side effects, which are defined as side effects affecting a person's ability to do daily activities. And although few people in the clinical trials went to the hospital or died, the data suggests that people who got the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine were less likely to have these more serious outcomes compared to people who got the saline placebo. So with this information, the CDC recognizes and it will continue to provide updates as we learn more about the safety of the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine in real-world conditions. So with the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, there are a lot of similarities that they share between the Pfizer vaccine as well. So they are both our mRNA vaccine, which I explained in the previous slides, but the biggest difference that right off the bat that you can see is the time through getting the second dose. For the Moderna, it's 28 days or 1 month after the first dose, which is the difference between, in the Pfizer vaccine, it was usually 21 days, which is about 3 weeks after the first dose. They both do not contain eggs, preservatives, or latex. And another key difference is that the Moderna recommends that people 18 years and older receive their vaccine, whereas the Pfizer vaccine recommends that people 16 and older can receive the vaccine. So I can see more people getting vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine because it allows more people, due to a 2-year difference in age gap, that makes it more available to a more diverse group of people. The side effects that I studied here were the same, especially within the arm that you received the shot. Pain, swelling, and redness were all common, and throughout the body, chills, tiredness, and headache throughout the body were common. And different from Pfizer, another key thing is that these symptoms usually start within a day or two from receiving the vaccine, whereas the Pfizer stated that it started within 7 days. So it's a quicker time where you can see these symptoms show up, which can mean that it could mean that the vaccine is working a lot quicker, and maybe someone can argue a lot more effective. But through the clinical trials, the summary of the data did show that there were a few people who were admitted into hospitals, but no one has died from the data that we have collected so far. And overall, it was 94.1% effective, which is about 1% off from the Pfizer, which counted in at 95% effective. So these are the facts of the Pfizer vaccine, COVID-19 vaccinations, and the Moderna facts. You can see they are pretty similar with a couple of differences. One starting with the amount of time through the first dose, but they contain the same ingredients and they are recommended for different ages, and the effectiveness rate is about the same. But I would argue that dealing with a pandemic, I would say 95% versus 94% sounds a lot more promising than 94% because of the pandemic that we are living in and the fear that can spread with not having even a higher number. 95% can be considered too low by some people because they want to make sure that this is something that we can put behind us and move forward as a country, as a world, really, to get back to some type of normalcy. Now, in this slide, I am going to list off the demographic information from the clinical trials for the Pfizer vaccine, and then in the next one, I will do the same for the Moderna vaccine. The first point that we see from the clinical trials for the Pfizer is that it is 81.9% white people, 26.2% Hispanic or Latino, 9.8% African American, 4.4% Asian, and less than 3% of other races and ethnicities. 50.6% were male and 49.4% were female. I'm listing this off because I want you guys to notice a trend as I move into the clinical trial data information for the Modernas as well. For the Moderna's clinical trial data, we have 79.4% who were white, 20% Hispanic or Latino, 9.7% African American, 4.7% Asian, and less than 3% other races and ethnicities. We have an increase in the male turnout with 52.6% and 47.4% that were registered as female. With this being said, and knowing all of the information that you do now, with the Pfizer vaccine being 95.1% effective and the Moderna being 94% effective, that should be amazing news, right? But it's not. Why? Because of the demographics of the clinical trials. The information in the clinical trials is startling to me, because how can we come to a genuine conclusion and have genuine conclusions about new groundbreaking vaccines when there are huge disparities and underrepresentation in minority communities around the country? The information that we have in both of the clinical trials for the Pfizer and the Moderna is tailored for white males specifically because they have been and are the most represented group in the United States. This is not anything new, and it is a common problem that we have, and will take time to build the trust in minority communities to want to participate in these clinical trials. Until then, all we have are the facts from a clinical trial that is heavily represented by white males. And knowing this information, would you want to get the vaccine still? Does the 95% effectiveness bear any weight when you know that your demographic is unrepresented? This is the ongoing and persistent problem that we have with the distribution of COVID vaccine in 2021. Below, I have the list of references that I used, and today I relied heavily on the CDC for a lot of the information about how vaccines work and information on the Pfizer and BioNTech vaccines along with the Moderna vaccines, because I believe this is the most reputable and up-to-date information that we have regarding the COVID-19 vaccine information. And like always, thank you guys again for tuning in. This is Roger Campbell. Thank you, and you guys have a nice day.